Okay, we are looking at LSAT PrepTest 54, Logical Reasoning, Section 2, Question 6. You know why I'm doing that, by the way? Just so I might get some better organic Google search results. It's all about SEO, man. You cannot be too cautious about your SEO, okay? Because right now on my website, I have 1.3 hits a month. And 1.4 of them were from me. So somehow I have negative 1/10 hits a month. I don't know how that's happening. Perhaps it's the lecturer. I don't know. Okay, but what's going on? Question 6. Which one of the following is an assumption on which the argument depends? Okay, so when we think about assumptions, right, there's kind of like two categories that I kind of go into, and one is like the Etheral Assumption, and the other is like it's just kind of filling in the gap. Like there's some hole in the argument that we can see, boom, we pop it into place, and all of a sudden the conclusion makes sense. All right, we have gone over and over and over and over that an assumption is required. Therefore, if we eliminate the assumption, the argument must be destroyed. Okay, the argument cannot exist if the assumption is not there. Hence, required. Okay, like what is required for us to live? Okay, it is, let's say, I don't know, breathing. Okay, if we're not able to breathe, we're dead. Okay, so that is what an assumption is, right? It is like breathing. That's deep stuff. I don't know if an assumption is like breathing, but in that context, absolutely, that's what an assumption is. It is a requirement, and if it is that thing that the argument is a junkie for. It's like, I gotta have it. I gotta have that. If I don't have that, the argument's destroyed. I can't exist without that. That's what an assumption is. All right, so this right here, by the way, is a pretty good argument, all right? And what it will ultimately depend on is what I call this etheral assumption, you know? Okay, so let's just talk about what's going on. This is not pulpus, it's pulp is, okay? And I don't have spell check on this, so I think on one of my other videos I spelled veggies, V-E-G-E-S, so whatever, shoot me, okay? All right, so if paper made from pulp is to look white, so this doesn't just happen naturally, all right? We have to add this filler. I don't know what it is, but it's this mineral filler, because by God Almighty, we need white paper, we need a white board, okay? So we set it up this way, and then we say, you know, to make paper white from recycled paper, we got to have more filler, man. I mean, and I think it also mentions, just so we're clear, I kind of like skipped a little bit here. Without the filler, it looks grayish, right? It's not cool. We don't like it. I mean, it's not newspaper, it's worse than newspaper. And I know that there's a lot of you guys out there that probably don't know what newspaper is, but maybe if you go to a museum, there might be some sitting around. But it's like, it's grayish. I mean, we're like, yeah, we want it white, all right? So if we make it from recycled, we need more filler, all right? So we got to have filler to make it look white, the regular stuff. If we make it from recycled paper, we need more, okay? And then it does a few things in this conclusion. I mean, this is like a lawyer here, you know? It's like barring advancement and a filler advancement, okay? Which means that some guy's like, I know, eureka, we do not need to use the same amount of filler. I think I just went President Clinton there, and I don't mean to do that. I apologize. We don't need to use the same amount of filler anymore because we've made an advancement, okay? So it says barring that, okay? And then it also says any other advancement that's not related to filler. Like, in other words, we came out with this, you know, I don't know, we came out with this thing, we just put some glue in there. We put something else. It's not mineral filler, it's something different. We just spray it in there and everything's white. So it's foreclosed on those two things. I mean, basically, any advancement in filler or any other advancement, barring that, okay, if this recycled paper replaces regular paper, we're going to have more filler, all right? And so, I mean, it is entirely a logical argument. I mean, it's saying, look, to make it white, normally we have to have filler. If we use recycle, we have to use more filler. And then barring any other advancements, if we begin to use this, then we're going to need more filler. And this is where, when you see something like this, you're like, that's pretty good, man. That's solid. I mean, we've done everything we need to do. We're going to come up with an Etheral assumption, okay? So let's go through and take a look at what we've got here. Let's look at A. Certain kinds of paper cannot be manufactured from recycled paper. What if I said, it is not true that certain kinds cannot, or that all can, okay? Does that destroy this argument? And you got to think about what is the argument. If recycled paper replaces, then we're going to need more filler. We need something to say if recycled paper replaces. It is not a requirement that we need more filler. Okay, so that's what you're really doing. You are attacking this idea that this is going to happen. All right, and A doesn't do that at all. Okay, and when I say attacking, right, I'm talking about if we eliminate the assumption. All right, so if we eliminate the assumption, it will destroy this. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. So A doesn't do that. A falls out. All right. B, the fillers that are used to make paper white are harmful to the environment. What if I said that's not true? They're not harmful to the environment. Does that do anything? No, we're not really. Doesn't really have anything to do with this argument, the relative harm. Okay, let's look at C. Grayish writing paper will not be a universally acceptable alternative to white writing paper. Well, what is that getting at, right? Okay, so if the recycled paper replaces, we'll have to have more filler. Why do we have to have more filler? Because we got to make things white. So if you look at C, it is not true that grayish writing paper will not be a universally acceptable alternative to white writing paper. This answer choice is saying if I eliminate this assumption that we would accept gray writing paper. Okay, what does that do? If recycled paper replaces, then we need more filler. But what if we were willing to accept the gray? You know what? We would not need more filler. Okay? That's the answer to the question. That if that is true, by eliminating that assumption, and we were to accept, that destroys the argument. That's the answer to the question. Let's go to D, though. Beyond a certain limit, increasing the amount of filler added to paper pulp does not increase the whiteness of the paper made from the pulp. So if I was to eliminate that assumption, I could say, you just keep adding more of this mineral, and it gets whiter and whiter. There's no limit. It could get so white that it's unbelievable. It's just like, my God, does that destroy the argument? Not at all. It just says these things get more white. All right. And then E, the total amount of writing paper manufactured worldwide will increase significantly in the future. What if it doesn't increase significantly in the future? That doesn't do anything to the argument. C is the assumption we need. It's an Etheral assumption. It just says, oh, by the way, we're not going to accept. See, it's not about advancements. The one last step is that we won't accept, is that we must assume that we just hate the F in gray paper, and we're never going to accept that. Because if we were to accept that, if we're like, we'll go with gray, gray's good, gray is good, then this argument falls apart. So again, C is the correct answer to the question.